This is the thing. He's not on my level. He never will be on my level. But now he's to the point where it's almost like my duty as a martial artist to fuck him up. It's almost my job as a martial artist for whatever I stand for. I talked to Dan Lambert today. I said, after I whoop his ass, I want him off the team. He's a disgrace to American Top Team, the tradition that it was rooted in. He's a disgrace to the sport, and he's a mockery to the toughest and the best division in the UFC's history, which is a welterweight division. And he's a disgrace to it.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 33 of Combat Docket Radio. As always, this is Kurt and Ben here to break down everything going on in the MMA world this week. What's going on, Ben?
Not a lot, man. Just still sweating a little bit. We'll talk about it here in a moment, but still sweating from that UFC 225 main event. One of the absolute best fights I've seen in a minute.
Yeah, I agree with that, man. UFC 225 definitely delivered. Before we get into breaking down that, we just want to let you all know later in this episode, we'll be joined by a true pioneer of the women's MMA world. Roxanne, the Happy Warrior Modafferi, will be joining us later on. So stay tuned for that. But first, let's break down this UFC 225 card, and let's talk right off the bat about Colby Chaos Convington. Got a big win this weekend and has set himself up with Tyron Woodley. We opened up the show with some comments from Tyron Woodley. And first off, Ben, I think this Colby Convington fight does wonders for Tyron Woodley. I think this sets him up to be the hero that he wants to be, fighting the villain in Colby Convington.
Yeah, dude. Like, have we ever heard Tyron Woodley talk like that? I don't think so. And I think part of the interesting part of what I really like about it too is that, as far as I know, as long as Covington has been doing this gimmick, which has not been his entire career, by the way, he started it recently. He hasn't faced anybody who's really tried to give it back to him. You know, RDA was this like quiet, oh, you'll learn, like, I'll kick your ass. And obviously Damian Maia's not going to say anything. And I think, was it Dong Young Kim before that? Like, nobody has tried to engage him before. And it's cool to see that Woodley will. You know, Woodley's not known as a trash talker or anything, but he's very comfortable in front of a camera and very comfortable on the mic. And just from like these very brief interviews and clips we've seen him, I think he comes off as pretty genuine. He seems pretty like genuinely mad with Colby Convington, which is, I don't think it's going to be a massive, it's not like he's going to do Brock Lesnar numbers, but I think, the fight could do well just based on the sheer amount of back and forth that they're going to have.
Yeah, I think, especially for a Woodley fight, I think this is going to do numbers. But honestly, this is Colby Covington's shtick working. And for all the people that want to say that he's lame and they don't give a shit, guess what? You do give a shit. Because everyone's saying that they want to see Colby get his ass kicked and fuck Colby. You care. His shtick has worked. He has gotten to the masses. And he embraces being the bad guy. He loves it. His shtick has worked. At first, I didn't like it. I thought he was like a poor man's Chael Sonnen. But after I sat back and looked at it, like, he's doing a good job at what he's doing. I was so pumped for his fight with RDA this weekend. Not only because, like, it's not just like as black and white as, all right, I want to see Colby get his ass kicked. But listen, Colby attacked the Brazilians. That filthy animals thing, looking back on it, that was brilliant.
Like, it makes you want to see what's going to happen.
Yes.
That's it.
And
like, it's not that you're offended. It's like, I want to know what's going to happen in this car crash.
Yeah. And guess what? He was locked in the octagon with the former lightweight champion, a guy who's on an absolute tear at welterweight, who's a passionate Brazilian. Like, I was so freaking amped for that fight. So yeah, Colby's shtick worked on me. I was very critical of it, but guess what? It worked. And I think the fight delivered. I was on the edge of my seat from when they walked out until the judge's decision was read.
Yeah. And I will say, before we break down the actual fight, I still I'm torn, because I still, when I see Covington talk, and people saw that Bisping interview where he got tongue tied. Like, I don't think Colby is actually that good at the gimmick, but it's kind of like the proof is in the pudding, because I'm the same as you. Like, I can watch Covington do an interview and I think these lines are terrible and they're rehearsed and he doesn't seem natural, all that I want. But at the same time, I was like, when he got in the cage with RDA, I was like, holy shit, I was invested in the fight. So on some level, yeah, it is working. But man.
Well, you know what, Ben? He's also so persistent with
persistent.
it.
That's all it is. He's persistent. Yeah.
He stumbles. He's not that clean with it, but he's so persistent. Like, he doesn't give a fuck. That's his gimmick, and he's sticking to it.
Yeah. But let's, as much as it's going to pain me to do, I feel like we got to give him some credit, right? Because he put a pretty clear victory out there over somebody that both you and we thought RDA was going to win. I think a lot of people in the know thought RDA was going to win. How did he get it done, man?
So I was I thought RDA was a terrible, terrible matchup for him. I predicted RDA to go out there and starch him within, I think I said 3 rounds. Obviously that wasn't the case, but I'm not sold on Colby getting a clear victory. I thought that fight was super tough to score. Listen, Colby was super aggressive. I mean, right off the bell, he came out, he charged the center, he put RDA against the cage throughout the fight. But I thought RDA was very effective in the clinch. Even with his back against the cage, I thought he was landing good shots. Colby, in a couple of the rounds, I believe it was the first round, maybe the second, and the third, I believe, he took RDA down pretty quick. But after that, RDA was able to stave off the many takedowns of Covington. I thought he did a lot of damage in the clinch. I thought he put in a lot of really good body work. That was a really tough fight for me to score. And honestly, I haven't watched it again since Saturday. But I can't say it was a clear Colby victory. I can't argue that Colby won. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say it was some sort of robbery. But honestly, I could probably see it either way. And again, I have to go back and watch it. But you thought it was a clear Colby victory?
I thought at least it was 3-2. So, I mean, competitive for sure. But I thought, and I'm trying to think of probably I want to say 1, 2, and 3 or 5. I can't recall the exact numbers, but in my mind, there were 3 rounds that I thought were pretty clearly for Covington. But you do bring up a good point, that action along the cage just kind of by default goes against the guy whose back is to the cage. But yeah, I mean, there was a lot of, RDA landing hard knees with his back against the cage. So I don't know. I mean, it was competitive. I'm not going to say Covington whooped his ass or anything, because he didn't. But I thought he won pretty clearly, but I do, Covington deserves credit. I underestimated his gas tank. Like, at the pace he was fighting at, I thought RDA was for sure going to wear him out and win after like the first round and a half. His striking looked Covington's striking has never looked pretty, but it was effective for what he was trying to do. And he was able to time and time again back RDA up against the cage. And part of that, it was so frustrating to watch RDA allow himself to be put against the cage. But you know what? Credit to Covington. His kicking game, he was able to actually compete with RDA a little bit better in the kicking range than I expected. So, it sucks, but credit to Covington where it's due. He did what I didn't think he was going to be able to do, which was put a pace on RDA and outwork him.
Yeah, man.
Arguably outwork him. I understand if you score it for RDA that maybe he didn't actually outwork him, but he competed very closely in that
100%. Whether you scored it for RDA or Covington, I definitely think he outworked him, and his cardio held up. I did not think it would. I thought he would be tired by the 4th round, and RDA would if he didn't already get him out of there, I thought he would have got him out of there. But Covington's cardio looked great. I mean, the guy is supremely confident. And he's ballsy, man. That guy has a great chin. He's not afraid to take a shot. And what was it? Was it the fourth round the RDA took him down with ease?
Yeah, twice. And that's when I was like, oh shit, this has got to be over. But he got up. To his credit.
I'm surprised the RDA didn't go with the takedown earlier. And then in the fifth round, Colby came out, and I definitely thought Colby won the fifth round. I thought he came out stronger. I mean, yeah, props to Colby, man. He, love him or hate him, and most people hate him, but the guy is legit, 100%. I mean, that's a resume win for him. That's a big time win for him, and he got it. You can't call it a robbery either way, whether you scored it for him or RDA. It was a razor close fight. It was a tough fight to score. He got the win, and now he sets himself up for a big time welterweight match. And since GSP left, when's the last time we had a really big welterweight match?
No, I mean, I was for Woodley Thompson 1. I thought that was a phenomenal fight, but it didn't have any kind of heat like this will have.
Yeah, it wasn't catching that many eyes.
Right.
Even like the Lawler Condit fights, like, yes, they were great, but was it catching that many eyes? I feel like Colby brings eyes to this fight. And again, it kind of makes Woodley the hero here.
Definitely makes him.
Everyone wants to see Colby get his ass kicked. And yeah, I'm excited for this fight. And, we played that clip at the beginning. When have you ever seen Woodley talk like this? I mean, he is amped up for this fight.
Yeah, I'm excited because, like I said at the top, Woodley, not really known as a trash talker, but we know he can talk. He has a podcast. He does the TMZ gig. Like he's a well-spoken dude. And just in what we've seen of him, he comes off as like scary almost. Like hearing him talk about how he's gonna like beat the not let the ref step in and that kind of stuff. Like, I know he's being hyperbolic. He's exaggerating, but at the same time, you hear Woodley talking, got a little chills. He's a scary dude.
Yeah. So I'm amped for that fight. I'm admittedly, I'm kind of a Tyron Woodley hater. I'm not a big fan of his, but I am amped for this fight. And, Colby definitely plays a big part of this. I think it's great for the division. Again, I feel like every week we are always talking about this division. It is so great, and finally it's starting to work itself out, and I'm so happy about it. When do you think this fight's going to actually happen? Do you think it happens in 2018?
I hope. Another common theme that we've brought up with welterweight is them losing steam, like with Darren Till waiting so long, but from between Darren Till fights. I hope that it happens in 2018 because there's a little bit of smoke behind it now, but if we wait till like February of 2019, like, are we really going to remember this heat that is happening now? I hope. I don't see why not. Like Woodley said he wanted to come back in August. So assuming he's ready at any time after that. And as far as I know, Covington didn't have any injuries. Like, I don't see why they couldn't fight in, September or even the year-end card. That's a ways away, but sometime in the fall would be fine with me.
Yeah, I got to think this fight happens in the fall. I hope at least. Again, I'm amped for it. You're amped for it. Everybody's amped for it. But yeah, it seems like the welterweight division, like things start falling into place on its own, and they kind of kill it. So I'm hoping that this fight happens in 2018 while we're all still amped on it. Colby, what he's talking about, bringing the belt to the White House, laying it on Donald Trump's desk. I mean, we're not getting into politics, but Donald Trump,
he's a divisive figure.
Everyone wants to talk about Donald Trump, positive, negative.
Yeah.
Yes. And I think, again, Colby bringing him into it's genius.
As long as it doesn't backfire.
It's genius.
he's got to be, there's a line that he's walking up to, and he's said flat out, he's like, I never cross the line, but he's getting close. He's getting real
bullshit. He crosses the line.
He's always been like the filthy animals thing is really close to the line. He's going to, because Woodley is a pretty outspoken in terms of his politics and, you know, his support for like the Black Lives Matter movement and that and whatnot. And again, we're not going to talk about politics, but I do think it's worth noting that they're both, Colby for sure is going to walk right up to that line. It's going to be interesting to see if he can keep himself from crossing it.
Yeah, at the end of the day, Colby's shtick has worked. Real quick before we get off and we move to the main event, what did you think about the Bisping Colby interaction after the fight?
It's interesting. I understand that some like journalists were like, this is unprofessional and all this. It's like, it's Michael Bisping on a Fox show. Like, he's not fucking.
I loved it.
He's not reporting on the president. Like, he can do some shit talking here. It's just a TV show. Like, I don't understand why people. Yeah, he's a personality. He's a personality. Yeah,
we know what Bisping is, and for him to call out Colby and go after Colby like that, and I thought it was great. I think it only builds Colby too. Like,
yeah, exactly.
I thought it was great.
Yeah. So I don't understand why people were like, he's an analyst. It's like, a fucking analyst. He's Michael Bisping. So
yeah, exactly. He's Michael Bisping. I thought it was great. I thought it was funny. I thought they both had highs. I don't think either of them owned the other. I know some people think Colby owned Michael. Michael owned him. I thought it was great. I loved it. Yeah, it's great. It just builds into Colby's figure leading into this Woodley fight.
Exactly.
All right, so let's move on to the main event. Off the top, did you score for Whittaker or did you score for Romero?
I actually scored it a draw. I gave Romero round 5, 10-8, and I gave Romero round 3, 10-9, but it's really, really, really hard. And that was, I would say a draw scorecard is pretty generous to Whittaker because round 4 could have gone to Romero, round 3 could have gone Romero 10-8. So it's really hard for me to see how this fight is scored for Robert Whittaker, to be honest. As much as I love the guy and as much as I fucking loved the fight and was so impressed, it's hard for me to justify a 48-47 Whittaker scorecard.
So I did score it for Whittaker.
Wow.
Yes, and
how the fifth round? You don't give the 5th round 10-8?
I didn't.
Wow.
And I'm not generous with 10-8s, but I don't mind giving 10-8s. Yeah, I scored it for Whittaker. Again, I haven't watched any of these fights a second time. I scored it for Whittaker. But man, these guys are absolute gold together. I thought both of their fights together delivered. You know what, though? I'm happy, and I hate to say it, I'm happy that Whittaker won. Even if it should have went to Romero, or it should have been a draw, I'm happy Whittaker won. Because, you know what? I know it's 0.2, and I know there's some controversy, but Romero didn't make weight. I kind of want to see it move on. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to see a third fight right now. I didn't want to see Romero win that fight and have that, him not making weight over his head. You know what I'm saying? Like, if Romero made weight and he got the decision, perfect. He's a new champ. Then we could do a trilogy fight, or then he could fight somebody else. But he didn't. He didn't make weight. So I'm happy Whittaker won. Again, that's another fight where it's super close. The rounds are tough to score. It's not a robbery. Yeah, I scored it for Whittaker, but it might be a little biased too. I'm not a big... there's always something crazy going on with Romero's fights. And I always go back to that Tim Kennedy fight. I love Tim Kennedy. And that the stool gate bothered me. He missed weight against Rockhold. I don't know, man. There's always something going on with Romero.
Yeah,
I was happy Whittaker won.
I disagree with you on the scoring, but I do agree that I'm happy that Whittaker won, and like all is kind of well in the world, that he kept his belt without, like, it would have been weird if he had lost and still had the belt. So
it would have been tragic for that division if he lost. You know, it would have been horrible. Because then you got a champion that is still the champion, but he lost to Romero. Then you have to do a third fight. You have people knocking on the door. It would have been terrible.
The actual fight, though, god damn, dude, like
amazing.
Is there anybody in MMA right now that you can think of that has better recoverability than Robert Whittaker? Because the beatings that he took in rounds 3 and 5, and not just came back in round 3, he hurt Romero. Like, can you think of anybody with better like recoverability, heart, chin, cardio? Like Whittaker is the dude right now in terms of that.
Props to Darren Elkins. That's about the only dude I can think of, man. I mean, yeah,
Whittaker is like Darren Elkins
Darren
Elkins has to grind you out. His win over Mirsad Bektic is out of the ordinary there, but Darren Elkins can survive and then he has to wear you out. Robert Whittaker survives, and then to have the wherewithal to throw those elbows in the clinch in round 3.
I agree, man.
The way he keeps his wits about him is insane to me. Like, I think Robert Whittaker is legitimately like a generational talent. Like, I could see him ruling over this division for a couple years. Like, I think he's that good.
Yeah, man, I agree with you there. I mean, that third round was
round of the year.
It's a round of the year, yes, 100%. I mean, Whittaker was hurt, Romero was hurt. Those guys are, man, they're just so good together. That first fight was awesome, and this fight topped it. I mean, this might be fight of the year.
It's hard for me to picture another fight topping it because how often it's not just that it was like a knockdown, drag out brawl, and it was that in parts, but it was also like the most technical, elite, refined MMA that you can find.
Yes, these are the best 2 middleweights in the world.
Yeah.
Man, they went at it. Props to them, man. I mean, it just sucks that Romero missed weight. It kind of puts a little bit of a asterisk. Maybe not. Who the fuck cares? But again, if he won that fight, we would care, right?
Yes, so much.
It feels right that Whittaker won, but if Romero won, that's what would be the point of this fight. But man, yeah, I agree with you on Whittaker. He is a talent. The guy has too much heart for his own good. I mean, at the 10 rounds that these guys have fought, they beat the piss out of each other in the most technical, high-level way possible. Props to them. So what do you think is next for Whittaker? I see a lot of people campaigning for a third fight with Romero. I'm not on that train. I personally I don't care. Gastelum, Weidman, either way. It's a fresh face. I think it's a good fight. I think you can make an argument for either of them.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I don't want a trilogy fight, especially after Romero has missed weight 2 times in a row. Like, you cannot possibly put Romero in another championship fight. And I don't initially I just assumed Gastelum is next. Coming off the win over Jacare and a win over Bisping, who, former champion. Say what you will about Bisping.
But guess who Weidman's last win?
Yeah, it was against. So exactly. They both have a claim to it. Either one, though, yeah, I want to see a fresh face. I'll be honest, though, man. Robert Whittaker is a terrible matchup for either one of those dudes because he can, for sure, defend Chris Weidman's takedowns. And I think he boxes up Kelvin Gastelum, who gets hit a lot. So,
he does, but I think Gastelum is a very interesting matchup on the feet.
More dangerous because Gastelum hits hard and Gastelum will be willing to exchange with him in the pocket. And Whittaker, he has that like blitzing kind of in and out style. But we saw here, Romero deserves credit for some improved improved pocket boxing here because both times that he dropped Whittaker, it was in an exchange. And, Gastelum would definitely challenge him there. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. I do agree with you that I don't want to see a trilogy fight. I want to see some fresh blood at 185.
Yeah, I'm honestly fine with either Weidman or Gastelum, either one. And isn't it crazy that we're talking about Romero going up? You know what I'm saying? Like, Romero's 41 years old. That guy is a freak of nature. Like, he shouldn't have, like, we're talking about Romero like he can go up and, challenge for a belt at 205. He's 41. That guy is a freak of nature. Like, we should be talking about him, thinking about hanging him up. And he just almost beat Robert Whittaker. He arguably beat Robert Whittaker. The guy's a freak of nature. Props to him, man.
Yeah, and he's not done either, man. He's not retiring, so.
No, he's not.
It's crazy.
Again, that guy could be like 35, and we don't know, but who knows? All right. Let's move down in this card. There's so many fights to talk about. What a great card.
Yeah. Those two fights, the top two, deserve the time we gave to them. We could be a little bit quicker on the other ones, but those two fights were worth it.
Absolutely. So Holly Holm beat Megan Anderson. Man, Holly showed a veteran's poise out there. She got rocked really early. It looked very bleak, and then she went to her wrestling, which who knew Holly Holm had wrestling like that? Man, but Megan Anderson's a big, big chick. That's all I could think about. She's 6 feet tall, looks every bit of 6 feet tall. She got off really early, and then Holly just stifled her for the rest of the fight.
I kind of want to say we told y'all, because we did, that Megan Anderson didn't have the skills to hang with Holm here, and that became super obvious. Holm's wrestling, props to her, but I feel like she's been in MMA for, I want to say 8 years, her career, 6 years, something like that. She's definitely had some wrestling, and she's at one of the absolute, if not the best camp in the world. But back to the drawing board for Anderson. It's crazy to think that she was in talks to fight Cyborg like a year ago. That would have been really ugly.
Yeah, that was, I think definitely her sabbatical where she had to pull out of that fight definitely helped her. But it kind of puts a hamper on the featherweight division. Like, you had this chick that was a legit featherweight. So I don't know what they do with that division. I feel bad. It's a Cyborg division, and they need to just keep it the Cyborg division. Just feed her whoever. Maybe they do the Holly Holm rematch. I'm sure Holly would be down for it. But yeah, Anderson definitely back to the drawing board. Maybe they bring up some different featherweights and build her up properly for a Cyborg fight.
I mean, you got to imagine there's at least a couple bantamweights right now in the UFC that want to move up. So maybe, and now that they don't have to fight Cyborg if they move up, maybe they're more willing to move up to 145, because I would imagine that there's some bantamweights right now that are big for the weight class, and now that they could move up and fight Megan Anderson instead of Cyborg, that they're more willing to do that. Especially after they saw the performance that Anderson put on,
But you also have to book Cyborg for a fight, though. If you don't do Holly Holm, you have to book her for a fight
against, I think, Amanda Nunes. Though I think if you book Cyborg's next fight has got to be either Holly Holm or Amanda Nunes, which sucks.
But Amanda Nunes was just calling out Holly Holm, though.
Oh, really?
You know what I'm saying? Yes, she was saying Holly Holm. And honestly, if you look at that bantamweight division, Holly Holm makes sense. Like, who at bantamweight is next in line for a Nunes if she doesn't fight Cyborg?
I think the only
Holly Holm.
Ketlin, there's nobody.
Yes, but Ketlin Vieira, though,
her biggest win is over Kat Zingano at this point.
Who's getting up for a Ketlin Vieira Amanda Nunes fight?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? No offense to them, but if you look at it from the UFC standpoint, like Ketlin Vieira or Holly Holm, who do you want to see fight?
Yeah. No, I agree.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Man, I don't know. Or you're going to do the Cyborg Holm fight again, which I would be down to see. Who knows?
It sucks, man. I wish Cyborg had better competition because she's not just big. She's super talented, and we talk about it every time she fights that she actually is. She has so much technical skill.
She is so good. I wish I could build a division around her. But, I mean, I don't know. I can't even say they're trying. Again, their one big featherweight signing just lost, so we're back at square one. I don't know. We'll see. Moving on. Tai Tuivasa got a win over Andre Arlovski. Another close fight. How did you score it? Did you score for Tuivasa or did you score for Arlovski?
Yeah, I gave it to Tuivasa. But I'll be honest, man, I kind of checked out because it was a good fight. But by that point in the night, we had seen Blaydes over him. We had seen Gaudelia Esparza. We had seen Bektic and Lamas, Pettis and Benavidez. Like, it felt kind of like a step down. And that's no discredit to the legend, former champion, Andrei Arlovski, and definitely Tai Tuivasa with a bright future. But it was not as good as the rest of the card, to be honest. Like, I guess the big takeaway is I'm happy that Tai Tuivasa can fight more than one round. He definitely proved that, and he fought a veteran. But, you know, and Arlovski actually looked pretty good. Arlovski actually had a jab in this fight. So I know I started off by shitting on this fight, but I was, you know, there was good parts to take out of it. But I had 2 rounds to 3 for Tuivasa.
Arlovski surprised me. And not because of his skill, but because of his chin. He took some big shots in that fight.
Chin looked great.
It looked great. Yeah. It looked great, man. And I honestly scored it for Arlovski. I thought Arlovski won that fight. I was pretty surprised that Tuivasa won. Another close fight, but man, I was so impressed with Arlovski. But again, you know, Tuivasa proved that he can go 3 rounds, 3 hard rounds. And let me just boo Joe Rogan for not giving Tuivasa his shoe. Boo Joe Rogan. Like, you don't have to put that shoe on. Give him your shoe. Let him take a shoey. Did you see him after the fight force that man, whoever that man was that gave him his shoe, to spit in his shoe? That guy is a savage.
I love Tai Tuivasa. Walked out to the Titanic song, like.
Yeah, that was great. That was great. I just pictured me as Rose hanging off the Titanic with Leonardo DiCaprio grab me at the waist. So funny. Yeah. Again, that's good for the heavyweight division. Looking at the division, honestly, it's better that Tuivasa won than Arlovski. If Arlovski wins, it's like, oh great, Arlovski he killed a prospect. Tuivasa wins, it's like, all right, we got a fresh face. Let's start moving him up the ladder.
And the fact that it went the distance is another good thing because I know rounds 2 and 3 were really close, but it shows that Tuivasa, you know, can fight at that level 3 full rounds, because before he'd only had first round knockouts. So, you know, it all works out for the UFC's favor here with Tuivasa winning.
Yeah, absolutely. Who do you think he fights next?
Oh, man, I wanted to say Shumail Abdurakhimov, but I think he got booked in another fight today. Looking at the heavyweight top 15 right now. Does Justin Willis have a fight?
But what was Tuivasa ranked? 8th, right?
I don't know. Well, he's ranked 12 on the website right now.
12? I thought it was 8 and 9.
Arlovski is 9 right now. I don't know. I'm in no rush to bring him up. Just put him in fun fights, and every fight he's in should be fun. So,
yeah, I agree with that. Love it or hate it, one of the biggest fights on the card was Mike Jackson versus CM Punk. Give me your thoughts on that fight.
Well, to be honest, I guess I did say, I don't know if I said it on this podcast, but I do think one of the worst case scenarios was that it goes the full 3 rounds, and we saw that. But it wasn't as bad. I thought if it went the full 3 rounds, my thinking was both these guys are going to look terrible. But only one guy looked terrible the whole 3 rounds, and that was CM Punk. I know Dana White said that he just hated Mike Jackson for this fight and hated how unprofessional he was and all this shit. I completely disagree with that. You know, I think Mike Jackson, he was confident, but he was also the same guy with an 0-1 professional record. Like, these were both guys with very, very, very little experience. One of them looked woefully underprepared. One of them looked about like you would expect a one professional fighter to look like. And, you know, we got what we asked for. I mean, that's really I watched it. I kind of thought, woof, like this is a fight that's happening right now. I'm happy that we're probably not going to see CM Punk fight again. I was not happy with the commentary during it. Like, Rogan was talking like if it even touched the mat that CM Punk was going to like submit Mike Jackson, which obviously was some total bullshit. But I don't know. Mike Jackson clearly knows what he's doing. And CM Punk looked not so much. Tough, you know. I guess there is a little bit of inspiration in CM Punk. The guy definitely did not give up, and he could have given up multiple times, but he did not. So props to him for that. But they looked like two guys with a very little professional experience.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I think Jackson was a little bit too nonchalant in there. I thought CM Punk actually looked pretty good in the first round. I thought his striking looked about as it looked when he was hitting pads, but it was a lot better than the Mickey Gall fight. And man, so right off the rip, I mean, CM Punk has heart. Like, you know, he's not just doing it. He's doing it for fun, but that guy has some fucking heart. We can give him that. The guy can take an ass whooping. He tried his ass off in there, and I give him props 100%. Call me a mark, whatever. Props to CM Punk. I thought Jackson could have finished it. I thought he was a little bit too cocky. I honestly thought Jackson looked really good throughout the fight. I thought his striking looked good, but again, his striking looked good against CM Punk. His ground and pound looked good. But yeah, man, I thought he could have finished that fight. I don't know, man. Yeah, I don't agree with Dana White. You know, Dana White definitely bashed him. He said some pretty nasty things, but I thought Jackson could have finished it. But you know, he did what he had to do. I definitely think the decision kind of dampened it a little bit. I thought he could have got him out of there, and I thought the finish would have went a lot longer. But he did what he had to do. He beat CM Punk. You think Jackson gets another fight in the UFC, or do you think that experiment's done?
I think that's done. He wasn't, you know, he said on this podcast that he was like, you know, maybe I'll have another, like, he does not want to be a career professional mixed martial artist. He knows that he was there to put on a show. He knows that he was there because of CM Punk. So I don't think his feelings are really hurt if he doesn't get another fight in the UFC. And, you know, I don't think they're going to do that.
Yeah, I agree with that, man. I definitely think we can close the door on CM Punk. Nobody wants to see him fight again. I don't think. I don't think Dana wants to see him fight again. He's 39 years old. He made some improvements, but not enough to win at the UFC level. Yeah, the book needs to be closed on CM Punk in the UFC.
That's no more. Definitely no more for CM Punk. He's fucking, 39. He lived his dream, you know. The guy fought in the UFC for twice, so props to him.
Agreed. Preliminary main events, I guess you could say. Curtis Blaydes defeated Alistair Overeem, third round strikes. I'm on the Curtis Blaydes train to get a title shot. I think he poses a different threat to Stipe Miocic. He's not your usual heavyweight bomber with a shitty ground game. He's got good boxing. But man, he has some of the best wrestling in the heavyweight division. He's got great top control, good ground and pound, as seen when he just made Alistair Overeem's face erupt in that third round. But the thing about Curtis Blaydes that I'm most impressed with is his composure in sticky situations. We saw it in the Mark Hunt fight; he got hurt. We saw it in the Overeem fight; he got hurt. And that guy keeps his composure so well. He gets the takedown, he sticks it, gets his composure, and he just pounds away from there. I was so impressed with Blaydes in that fight. So
much agree, man. And we talked about it a little bit last week about both of us. I think we both picked Overeem, but both of us were like, you know what? Curtis Blaydes has shown a lot of improvement. I'm impressed with his fight IQ. He could pull this out, and he did. And I think the way that Blaydes got the finish, it was in the third round, he hurt Overeem a little bit on the feet, and then Overeem backed up into the cage and shelled up, and Blaydes ripped off like 5 or 6 punches, basically to Overeem's guard, And instead of just standing in front of him and continuing to try to unload punches, which maybe would have worked, but maybe, you run the risk of punching yourself out and Overeem circles out and he's back in the fight. Blaydes went in for that takedown, and it was a smart move, throwing those elbows, which were some of the hardest ones I've ever seen. Yeah, I think Blaydes, if you look at, I'm not saying that Blaydes is necessarily going to go down as like a multiple-time heavyweight champion, but he is kind of on the same in terms of his career, and kind of he had that early UFC career loss against Ngannou. He's kind of on the same trajectory as Stipe Miocic, to be honest. He's kind of a guy that, yeah, we knew he had potential, but nobody was really pegging him as a future champion until now. So yeah, I think Blaydes definitely, he's clearly pretty athletic. Has, like, when he exploded into, I think, a takedown in the first round, it was like, holy shit, this guy can blow through you with a double leg. But yeah, exactly what you said. His fight IQ, composure is superb.
Yeah, I kind of called him a dummy when he took Overeem down.
But
I was like, man, I thought he hurt him. I thought he could finish him on the feet, but
I think he sensed. I think he knew what he was doing. I think that was a smart move.
He did. Yeah. He did. And it made me eat my words. I was like, man, what are you doing taking him down? And then, a couple minutes later, he finished Overeem with those elbows, and God, that was bad to see. I mean, Overeem's face exploded with blood. That was vicious.
Yeah, dude. And it reminded me of another fight that happened in the United Center. I remember because I was there, lucky enough, was Ricardo Lamas exploding Eric Koch's face with elbows from inside the guard. Similar, just brutal. But I think Curtis Blaydes may have outdone it, because when a heavyweight does it, it's scary. So, I don't know. I'm fine with him getting a title shot. I think they're going to do him against Volkov, perhaps in Russia.
Yes, I heard about that. I guess that makes sense. They need a big fight for that card. Obviously, the winner of that would absolutely deserve a title shot. We got Miocic Cormier coming up. I favor Blaydes over Volkov, though. If they don't fight, I favor Blaydes over Volkov. I think those are the two front runners for a title shot. But yeah, I'm all for Blaydes on that heavyweight title fight train. If not, I'd be down to see him fight Volkov. It's better than Hunt versus, who's Hunt supposed to fight? Oleinik?
That was rumored. I don't know if it's for sure happening, but yes.
Yeah, I don't know if it's for sure, but I'd much rather see Volkov Blaydes than Hunt Oleinik. But that's like two dads getting drunk at the family pick fighting. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't need to see that. Volkov Oleinik or Volkov Blaydes, though, I'm in.
It's like two athletes in their prime fighting. Yeah.
Yeah, instead of two like 45-year-old dudes. Like, no offense, I love Mark Hunt. Alexei Oleinik's the man, but I don't need to see that fight. Real quick, though, that Moscow card has Sabit written all over it. They're dropping the ball with not putting him in the main event.
It's still a ways away. They can still do it, right? Oh, they're going to do him in L.A.
Yeah, he's fighting Yair in L.A. Why not have Yair versus... Oh, maybe Yair doesn't want to go all the way to Moscow, but Yair, Zabit, main event, come on.
Yeah, let's run down the rest of this card.
Gedalia, Esparza. I was so impressed with Esparza. Very tough fight to score. I could see it for either fighter, but man, Esparza's striking looks so good, so improved. I thought Gedalia was going to mow through Esparza. I thought she was a terrible matchup. Not the case. Esparza actually had her on the stanky leg, and I believe the first round, maybe the second. I thought it was the first. Anyways, Esparza's striking looked really good. She didn't look timid at all. And she landed a lot more strikes than Gedalia in that fight.
Yeah, and I scored it for Esparza, but I'm the same. It could have gone either way. We shouldn't be that surprised. Carla Esparza has been developing for a while now. Gedalia did not react particularly well to getting hit. It's kind of a wake-up call. But yeah, props to Esparza. I wish she would not rely because I felt like if she had just really committed to striking in that fight, especially after the first round, that she would have gotten a clear win. But close fight. Good for Gadelha.
Absolutely. Mirsad Beknik beat Ricardo Lamas. That's a really marquee win for Beknik on his record. Sported a phenomenal stash. I think we both could appreciate that. You actually have a stash right now. I just had a pretty fantastic stash. Props to Bektik. Chris De La Rocha, Rashad Coulter was a slobber knocker.
Shout out to Rashad Coulter's corner for saying what was the line? He's like a big old Mexican with a big old
big-headed. Yeah.
The UFC released, or somebody has corner in between rounds. It was while they were at commercial break, and Rogan hears that and just starts laughing hysterically like he's on a fucking podcast. It's great.
Great. That fight was awesome. Rashad Evans needs to retire. Anthony melted him in 53 seconds. Sad to see for the former light heavyweight champion, man. That's 5 losses in a row. Rashad needs to retire.
Yeah. He put out a really genuine Instagram post about it, and he's kind of somebody who's, I feel like most hardcore MMA fans really kind of appreciate Rashad Evans for how open and honest he is, and it's hard to see him lose, especially like this. 53 seconds, just get melted.
He's got to hang him up, but who knows? I mean, I don't know what's next for him, but I think he's going to hang him up. I think we all think he needs to hang him up. Sergio Pettis got a career-defining win over Joseph Benavidez. Split decision. Another very close fight. I thought Sergio deserved the win, though. Benavidez looked, especially in that first round, Benavidez looked a little bit, he looked really rusty. He got rocked early, which I was really surprised of. Came back in the second and third, but I thought Sergio deserved that win.
Yeah, I scored it for Sergio as well. Actually, you know what? Recalling that live, I scored it for Benavidez, and I want to say on rewatch, I scored it for Sergio. And it kind of started to go how I thought it would. I thought Benavidez would just outwork him, and he kind of did in parts. But Pettis has some slick striking and obviously improved takedown defense. If he could just get off the cage with a little bit more urgency, I think he's a really dangerous guy.
He does. He's only 25.
Yeah,
it's crazy. He's definitely knocking on the door of a title shot, especially after that win. He's never fought Mighty Mouse, so I'm all for Pettis getting the next shot after Cejudo, which was announced for is it the LA card with him and Cejudo and Dillashaw Garbrandt?
Exactly. So that means TJ and DJ will both be fighting on the same card, and if they both win, hopefully the UFC can get that fight done between the bantamweight and the flyweight champion.
Yeah, that would make the most sense, but who knows? Last fight on this card we should talk about really quick. Charles Oliveira beat Clay Guida, guillotine choke. Man, does anyone in the UFC or MMA in general take a loss better than Clay Guida?
I saw the picture with him and Oliveira afterward.
But dude, after he lost, he was doing like victory laps in the cage.
He was still running around.
Except he didn't get the victory. He did like 5 laps and was still bouncing around happy as ever. So respectful. Clay Guida, the man.
Well, I wish his guillotine defense, though, he shot and stuck on that double leg like he didn't expect Oliveira to immediately attack a submission. It was weird the way obviously Oliveira is a phenomenal submission artist, and I'm not saying it's easy to defend his guillotine, but Guida just didn't fight the hands immediately. He didn't react like he knew what Oliveira was going to do, which was obvious to everybody, I thought.
Yeah, I know, man. And Oliveira is such a tough fight on short notice. Oliveira is only 28 years old. You look at that guy's record and the amount of people he's fought in, to be only 28 years old and the record that he has, it's crazy. That's all I got for 225. I thought it was a great card. I thought it delivered. The main event was one of the best fights of the year. Co-main event sets up, very intriguing welterweight matchup. We don't have any UFC this weekend, but tonight as we were recording this podcast, Dana White's Tuesday Night Contender Series happened. Greg Hardy fought and won in relatively quick time. I think it was like, a minute that he starts the dude he was fighting?
I don't know. First round.
57 seconds. Austin Lane, who's supposed to be a really good fighter.
I'm going to prefer to not watch Greg Hardy.
Okay, so you're done with Greg Hardy. That's not.
The dude was convicted of domestic abuse.
I know.
I cannot support that, man. That's just
So he's 1-0 as a professional. Is he going to get a UFC contract?
I mean, he won by spectacular knockout on Dana White's Tuesday Night Contender Series, so kind of seems like it. But we should know. I mean, they announced it that night, so maybe. But by the time this podcast comes out, people will have known for sure.
You're off the Greg Hardy train. Like, you're not interested.
I cannot possibly support the UFC saying, on one hand, like that they're appalled by Nick Diaz's arrest and have a no tolerance policy on domestic abuse, yet they're going to push this guy who has a domestic abuse conviction. I think people will get confused. Greg Hardy
domestic abuse. They're not on the bandwagon of Nick Diaz smoking weed.
Yeah.
Domestic abuse, you know what I'm saying?
That's true.
I'm with you 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, this dude, it seems like a douchebag. And now he's on the verge of UFC contract.
Yeah.
But the guy can fight, though. He's a big dude. I'm not in favor of him getting this shot, but he made the most of it. 57 seconds, he knocked out Austin Lane, who, in everything I've heard, is a legit heavyweight prospect. So, Greg Hardy might be on his way to the UFC very soon.
Yeah, whatever.
So before we go, I just want to touch on Ariel Helwani's move to ESPN. So today, in all accounts, I believe, was the last episode of the MMA Hour. I was an avid listener of the MMA Hour. I think the MMA Hour was the honestly, like, the biggest show in MMA. It grew a lot. And you look at it now, I mean, it was 5-6 hours of primetime MMA fighters, opinions. I thought Ariel did a really good job throughout the years, and it's kind of crazy to see him leave, man. I saw a picture of what he was leaving. He posted a picture of his studio, and I'm super jealous. I mean, I am jealous of Ariel Helwani. That guy is the man. He's leaving that studio, for guys like us that are doing this as a hobby, see that guy making a living of it and prospering, man, props to him. He did it big.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, definitely props to him. That show, people give Ariel Helwani shit, I think, and rightfully so in parts, because he had the whole, the deal where he was technically at one point on the UFC's payroll, but still as a journalist, and people give him shit for that. People give him shit for being emotional and crying, and sometimes he comes across as like overly self-important. But I don't think we should downplay how important like that show is in our sport, in MMA. The MMA Hour is the show of record. No other show. Maybe sometimes Luke Thomas will have guests on his Sirius satellite radio show, like shortly after their fights. But no other show has been like the MMA Hour in terms of, Joanna Jędrzejczyk went on there after she got knocked out by Rose Namajunas. You have guys the day after they win the title a day and a half, whatever, after they win the title, going on the MMA Hour. And that's where beefs were started. Conor McGregor did his early appearances there. Ronda Rousey did her early appearances there. So yeah, I mean, give the guy shit all you want because he cries or whatever, but the MMA Hour is an important part of the sport, and it has been an important part of the sport. So props to him for sure.
Yeah, that is the I think pinnacle of MMA podcasting and interviewing. So from everything I gather, I believe the MMA Hour is done. I think that was the last episode. I don't think anyone is taking that over. I know Ariel is doing his own show on ESPN. Is it ESPN or ESPN Plus?
I have no idea.
I don't know. I know he's doing a show with Chael Sonnen. I think he's doing like an MMA Hour type deal over on ESPN. So I think the MMA Hour is done. I feel like the beat, like MMA beat, can go on. I think Luke Thomas is the perfect host for that if he can commit to it. Danny Segura is on there. Chuck Mindenhall is on there. I think that can thrive, and I hope it does because I like that. They do the 3-panel opinionated booth. Also, they do questions from fans. I hope that continues, but I think Ariel's doing his show. I hope he does. Good luck to him, man. I think he's the gold standard for MMA journalism and MMA media. Agreed
all around.
That's a big hit to MMA fighting, though. You think they're going to recover for that?
Yeah, I mean, it's not like the website space will still be there for sure.
Yeah, I just think he's a big hit to him. Leaving is a big hit to them, but yeah, I guess we'll see,
absolutely.
Right?
We'll end the show with the Roxy interview, but as far as our end, just talking MMA in general, I got nothing else.
We have no fights this weekend.
Yeah.
Bellator is, I believe, next weekend, as well as the UFC. What's the next UFC card coming up?
UFC Singapore, which is Cowboy Cerrone and Leon Edwards.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that, but Dangerous Fight for Cowboy. That's going to be one of those cards that airs at like 3 a.m.
Yeah.
4 a.m. Eastern time. Very weird. You got to be a real hardcore to get up for that one, which we will. And again, we're going to break that down in the next couple weeks. So, slow weekend for MMA. Nonetheless, enjoy the weekend, and we'll talk to you all next week.
We are now joined by UFC fighter Roxanne Modafferi. Roxanne, thank you so much for joining us. I know you have a very busy schedule, probably a very busy day. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well, thanks. Training's going very well, and I'm happy to be on your podcast.
Well, we are happy to have you. I guess first off, what's new in the life of the happy warrior?
I wake up, I train, it's amazing, and I teach kids jiu-jitsu and use social media, and I'm ready for my big fight against Barb July 6th.
Again, thank you for joining us, Roxanne. We really appreciate it. So yeah, you're getting ready for a rematch with Barb. You guys first fought in 2011, long time ago. What's going to be different coming into this fight with Barb now in 2018? Obviously, you both have grown a ton since 2011. Can you talk about what's going to be a little bit different coming into this fight now?
Mm-hmm. I know I've evolved a lot. I know that my striking has gotten better. My groundwork has gotten better. I've gotten stronger. I'm not sure about, on the other end. I think she has similar habits that she used to, but, she's still very strong, very talented. So I'm excited to show what I can do and how much I've evolved.
And we're excited too. How do you approach a rematch differently, if at all, than just a normal fight? Is there more tape study, less tape study, or, how do you approach it any differently?
It's been so long since we fought last. Coach John and I watched her most recent fight against Lauren Murphy, on the finale, and just kind of analyzed that. We're going to go from there.
So do you have any specific game plans for Barb, or you're just working a bit of everything?
Yeah, we're keeping in mind her tendencies, and I have a lot of evasive action that I tend to do anyway, so I don't have to alter my style to become totally different. I'll just do what I do, and we'll see. I can't share with you the secret game plan, but it's going to be good. It'll be up and down. Hopefully, be fight of the night.
Awesome. And on that, I was rewatching some of your fights today to prepare for this. Your striking in the past few years, I feel like, has really, really come along. I know you dropped Sarah D'Alelio with a lot of with punches. It was beautiful. Is that something that you always kind of wanted to be a bigger part of your game, or is, because obviously your jiu-jitsu has always been pretty top notch, incredible. is striking something that you see being a bigger part of your game moving forward?
Well, I'm certainly no K1 champion, and I don't foresee that ever happening. But yeah, it's one of my weaknesses, so I've just been working especially hard at it. I just want to be effective with it, so I can take the fight where I want it, which is usually the ground. But I have done pretty well. I've landed some good, solid punches and knocked my opponents down, which is pretty satisfying. So one of my career goals is to get a KO someday. I don't really like striking, to be honest with you. I mean, jiu-jitsu really makes me excited. So I just kind of do it to do MMA.
Why? Do you have any guess as to why you don't like striking? Like, hitting the pads is super fun, isn't it?
I guess so. I just don't want to hurt anybody, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's
I don't
fair.
want to with jiu-jitsu, you can kind of make them tap out without causing pain. I think that's like the essence of martial arts. It's very beautiful. Like, you can make someone give up just by like twisting them somewhere. They're like, okay, I can't move. You win. Like, I think that's so cool. That's just my philosophy.
Yeah, I get that vibe from you. You don't seem like the type that really wants to go out there and hurt somebody. But I mean, you've been in some absolute wars in your career. I consider you a pioneer of women's MMA. I mean, I was, looking at your record today, and your first fight was all the way back in 2003. 15 years of pro experience. That's crazy, especially for a woman. Again, a true pioneer of women's MMA.
Thank you. I think I'm in the top 5 of having the most fights as a female fighter in the world. I saw some MMA scorecard statistic. That was pretty exciting.
Yeah, I mean, off the top of my head, I can't really think of too many women with more fights than you. So can you tell us, where are you training now? Are you at Syndicate?
I'm at Syndicate MMA for all my training.
You've trained all over the world. Can you tell us a little bit about some of your training experiences in different countries, different places?
Yeah, sure. I started, as a teenager in the United States. I did judo, taekwondo, kickboxing. Then I moved to Japan. I trained at Keishukai, which is one of the most famous martial arts gyms over there. And then I switched to AACC, which is where Megumi Fuji used to train. And like, my body started changing where that I could not stay up late at night, and they always trained like freaking 11 p.m. It's like, guys, I'm not going to start training at 10. Like, I can't. So I had to find another gym that had morning classes. My body has changed that way. I started waking up super early. So I switched to Ground Slam, which is also in Japan. And they were awesome. Like, Kaoru Uno trained there, Michihiro Omigawa, like a bunch of other famous Japanese guys. But their style is more like a group collective sparring for the pro classes. It's not like there's no coach. Everyone just kind of spars and says, hey, dude, how'd you do that? Well, let me show you. Like, so I don't really thrive with that kind of instruction. So when I came for The Ultimate Fighter season 18, I really experienced this huge, amazing coaching change in the style, because it wasn't there like 10 years ago when I lived in the States. Well, maybe it was, but I didn't know better because I was, I just started. I feel like scientifically, people figure it out more, how you should train, like physical conditioning, what's good to do. Conditioning doesn't mean 300 push-ups after class. It's like, all right, you got to do box jumps, you got to do like sprints, you got to, do, other stuff. So when I found Syndicate, I really loved John Wood's coaching. I decided to join that gym.
Awesome. And how long have you been at Syndicate?
Almost 5 years.
Okay. So it's definitely, it's been a good chunk of your career. I guess, and one thing I'm interested in is you've had all these experiences, but I would say more than anything, you're known for the happy warrior, your super positive mentality. And like, I don't know how modest you are, but that you're like a huge fan favorite, right? That if somebody says, do you like Roxanne Modafferi? Are you a fan of Roxanne Modafferi? I feel like that's saying, do you like pizza or music? Like, of course, like everybody does. Are you aware that you're a huge fan favorite? And do you have any idea as to why you are?
I guess so. I mean, thank you for saying that.
It's true.
I guess I try to be positive. I don't have as many followers as some other female fighters who post beautiful, fashionable pictures of themselves. But, I get people coming up to me in supermarkets saying that they're excited to meet me. And so that's pretty cool. So I win. Woohoo.
Absolutely. Again, yeah, I think Ben definitely nailed that on the head. Yeah, the happy warrior. I mean, that definitely
It's an honor to be thought of
quantifies
that
you.
way.
Absolutely. You might be the only fighter in MMA that does not have one hater. And I think that's awesome. So, a little off topic. I mean, this is a question I definitely have for you in MMA. I just alluded to it. I think you're a pioneer of women's MMA. I know I don't want to look past Barb. I know you're about to fight Barb, but is there any woman out there, like, in your career that you feel like you haven't matched up with? Is there anyone that you would see yourself fighting someday? Because you've been there, done that, you've fought everywhere. Is there anyone out there that I don't know, you'd like to match up with someday?
That's a loaded question, actually. I would like rematches against the people I lost against, for starters. But, also having fought for so long, people that I lost against have started retiring. So Rosie Sexton retired. I wanted a rematch against her. Akano Hitomi retired. I thought I got robbed of that fight. I wanted to rematch her, like that sort of thing. So I just kind of have to let it go, and I just have to realize, like, all right, this fight happened. I have to just move on, because Ataka Ohashi, oh man, I'm so mad I lost to her. But, I'm still fighting. I'm in the UFC now. I just keep reminding myself of the positive things, right? That's part of my shtick, like that's negative thoughts. I have to focus on the future and positivity and all that. Just whoever they match me against, and I'll have to try to beat them up.
That's a good attitude. And on the positivity, because I know you've written a couple books, and I know you wrote a book about the, how to be positive, literally. When did you kind of start systematizing or categorizing your mindset in a way where you thought, hey, I could write a book about this?
Good question. I've gotten a lot of people over the years asking me, how do you stay so positive? And, I just try to I just write back emails trying to explain. And I thought, man, I could write a book about this. Basically my mom taught me so much. She always did things like, when I was a kid, if I said something negative, she would always say, well, at least blah, blah, blah. Like, she would make sure I always ended the sentence on a positive note. Always, like, it was part of her thing. She would never let me complain or say something negative without saying something positive. So I tried to think about all right, what would my mom say? Are there any categories that I could make? So I came up with 10 chapters about kind of really inspired by my mom. So that's how that book came about.
So it seems like you, I guess I would say, prioritize making time for fans. Is that hard with everything you have going on in your life? We know you have a busy schedule, training for fights, working, but it seems like you really prioritize interacting with fans, spreading the positive vibes, spreading the love. Is that at all hard for you, or it's just part of your nature?
I feel like if somebody took the time to write me an email or reach out to me, I owe it to them to be, nice and write back. And I'm so honored that they, spent this effort, right? So on Twitter, I can't always do that because I would just flood my Twitter line with replies. But if someone writes an email or a Facebook message, I always 100% reply. And what's funny is that sometimes somebody said something, it seems kind of insulting or kind of weird. And then if I write back well, that's not really the case, half the time it's a mistake or misunderstanding. And they're like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it like that. So my friend's like, Roxy, you shouldn't write to that guy. And I think, no, I'll just write back and just be nice. And just kind of, it restores my faith in humanity a little bit, if that makes any sense.
It makes plenty of sense.
Just be nice to people, and they're nice to you back. That's my theme. I'll be anybody's friend if you're just nice to me,
I love it.
Seems too easy.
Yeah. And so I think what you just touched on when you said just be nice to people, because maybe I'm going to ask what I think is a deep martial arts question here, because Kurt and I are both martial artists,
Cool.
Nowhere near your level, but we appreciate martial arts, and we also consider ourselves nice people. How do you ever struggle with this? I'm in this super violent sport, but I know, how do you blend those two things together? If I know I'm a good person and I'm doing good things, but sometimes, you have people that are not martial artists look at us and be like, how can you do that? So I don't know if that's too deep of a question, but I'm curious. I'm sure you have some thoughts on it.
Let's see. After my fight against Sarah DeLalio, I think fans started calling me what they call me, Violent Roxy, or some nickname like that. And I remember asking my coach after one of my fights, man, Coach John, I was hitting this girl so much, and the ref wasn't stopping the fight. I want to end the fight sooner so I don't have to hit her as much. He was like, okay. So now I go as hard as I can so that the fight will get stopped and I'll win sooner. Like, that's just my mentality. And also, I just lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, it's both consensual. Never fight in anger. That's one of my philosophies. It's very Jedi. I would never fight on the street. I tell my kids' classes, I make them repeat every day, I will never fight angry. So nothing in there is emotional at all. It's all just a sport to me. So I'm able to separate that and keep that very straight. And if in training I get frustrated or if I get pissed at somebody, I always circle out, take a few breaths before going back to the sparring match, because I believe that, we should never fight with angry emotions in us.
Is coaching in the future for you after you retire, do you think?
I think I'll stick to kids.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe that I'll be a big enough draw as a female fighter. Like, honestly, come on. I don't think I could start my own school or my own business, but I really like teaching at Syndicate. I like teaching kids at Syndicate, and they pay me. They employ me rather, so I don't have to go out and start my own business.
Well, that's good. At least you found your niche with the kids. I definitely think you have the personality to work with kids. I'm sure they gravitate towards you. But again, circling back, I mean, it's a women's pioneer. You've been doing it all for so long. It's crazy. And I mean, so can we talk about your last fight a little bit?
Sure.
So you came so close to beating Nico Montano. I mean, you reached the pinnacle of the sport, right? You have been fighting since 2003. You made it all the way to a UFC title fight. I mean, the UFC is the pinnacle of the sport. Now you're firmly in the UFC. You're knocking on the door of another title shot. Just give us your thoughts on that. I'm sure you've gone through so many battles in your career, and just to reach that high and the pinnacle in the sport. Just touch a little bit on that for us.
I fought for a bunch of titles that I wasn't able to get. I fought for the Invicta title, the Strikeforce title, and the UFC title, and I have not gotten them. So it's a big bummer. Like, I feel like Vegeta, from Dragon Ball Z. He's always like the second, number 2. He's never number 1. So I relate to Vegeta a lot. I don't know if you follow Dragon Ball Z, but I was so close. It was a real bummer to lose that fight by decision. I felt like I landed more strikes. I mean, I don't disagree with it. She did have a little more top time, and judges see that, as dominance. So, I accept the decision, but, I just know I have the potential to grow more, and I'm just going to have to work my way back up, and hopefully I'll get the belt before I retire.
And then kind of putting a bow on that, bringing it full circle, talking about the belt, like, do you have any thoughts on kind of what's going on at 125 with the belt? And, there's talk of Valentina Shevchenko fighting Nico, and that fight maybe falling through. Do you have any thoughts on what's going on with the division right now?
Let's see if I can say this politically correctly. I think the rankings are a bit new, because basically all the girls on Tough got high rankings, and then Valentina, who was 35, beat a newcomer and suddenly got pushed into the number 2 slot. It's like, well, how did you suddenly jump into number 2 slot after beating somebody unranked? But whatever. Nico has been sick. She's been injured. So I think it's not fair, but kind of reasonable to give her crap. Not really reasonable. I mean, people want her to fight. That's true. But I mean, she just went through a lot with the whole Ultimate Fighter experience. I certainly know what that's like. And she got injured. So what are you going to do? Leave her alone, let her heal up, I think people just want an answer. They just want to see him fight. That's fine. I don't know. I can see everybody's point of view, but I'm glad it doesn't bother her. She's like, whatever. I'm a big Nico fan. We're buddies.
That's good that you guys have kept a relationship after the show. Yeah, I think she gets a bit of unwarranted slack. Again, a lot of the keyboard warriors like to throw shade and don't know the whole situation. I don't think it's a case of ducking.
No.
She won the belt. She knows she needs to defend it. But again, thank you for your take on the division. So after this Barb fight, let's say you get the win, do you think that puts you next in line for another title shot?
I have no idea. I don't know what they're thinking. I don't know what the UFC is thinking. Usually, I think people have to win 3 or 4 times in order to get a title shot, but obviously that's not the case with Shevchenko. So who really knows? I would like it in the next year or so. So I just want to fight a lot. I want to fight more. So
okay, that my next question. Go ahead, Kurt.
No, I was just saying it's also such a new division too. Kind of like you just alluded to with the rankings. Coming off the show, yeah, it's a new division, so I think everything is really playing out, and I think each win, really in the division puts you right up there.
I just don't want to fight my teammates because right now there are 2 other flyweights in my team syndicate, so I just don't want to fight either of them. Jessie Jess and Joanne Calderwood.
And Jessica Rose Clark fights in a couple weeks, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I assume she's like a regular sparring partner for you?
Yep.
Or you've been a regular sparring partner for her, rather. But probably goes both ways.
She's been training hard.
Okay. We're looking forward to that as well. So before you said I want to fight a lot, I was going to ask you if you'd be interested in a fight with Valentina Shevchenko, but I think you may have already answered that.
Sure. If they ask me to fight her, I'll fight her.
All right.
I don't fear anybody in my division.
Ooh, that might need to be where we end it with that. The happy warrior not fearing anybody. But I do want
people out of my division.
There you go. Yeah,
okay.
John Jones,
not in my division.
Cain Velasquez, don't fight them, but everybody else.
Yeah, no. Exactly.
Well, I do want to thank you again very, very much for your time. I'm sure you're busy in the midst of a training camp. So if you have anything else you'd like to add, let people know where to follow you if they don't already. You can do that now.
Okay, yeah, please follow me on Twitter, Roxy Fighter, RoxyFighther. Also Instagram, Roxy Fighter.
Awesome. Thank you so much, and we wish you the best of luck here in a few weeks against Barb Honchak.
Thank you so much.